Hey everyone, today I'm going to talk to you about consistency, how to be consistent in what you're trying to achieve. Now I know you will have heard about consistency from lots of people, from lots of productivity gurus, from everyone with a personal development bent that you can poke a stick at. They all have a message that being consistent is what you need to do to achieve your goals. And there's lots of truth in that, isn't there? Show up if you want to achieve something. Great. But here's what I discovered, and I wonder if it's the same for you. Just using my will, just using my mind, just deciding that I'm going to be consistent in a particular endeavour isn't enough. In fact, that dooms me to failure, because consistency isn't just something you can pluck out of the air. It's actually a byproduct of creating some space to be consistent in. It's a byproduct of having some focus on what the end goal of your endeavour is. It's a byproduct of being able to create momentum, being able to maintain momentum, being able to regain momentum when you lose it. So stick with me. I'm going to talk you through all of those things, and we're going to find ways to make you much more consistent on whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Hey everyone, Andrew Burns, founder of runningtokeepup.com, here with you again. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you. As you know, I have been studying and reading and talking and teaching and evangelizing about personal development for about 20 years now. And it is my mission to save you that same 20 years of legwork. And so Running to Keep Up is all about distilling those ideas that I've been learning and gathering, some ideas that I've discounted, some ideas that I've augmented, some ideas that I've just downright stolen from other people. They're all here for you to allow you to become the most effective version of you that you can be. Every month, thousands of people are engaging with my content, whether that be video, audio, written content. And I hope that I can create for you the same value that I've been creating for them. So stick with me and follow me on whatever social media platform you favour. I'll be there as Running to Keep Up, and that way you will not miss every new post. So, consistency. I wonder if this has ever happened to you. Have you committed to do something but not followed through? We hear lots and lots about very successful people who are incredibly consistent in what they're doing. So a very popular example would be Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld has a habit that he writes a new joke every day. And he has this unbroken chain of writing a joke every day. And that's his motivation, not to break that chain. Or maybe you hear about Brendan Burchard, the motivation guy, and he posts 4 times a day across his social media platforms every day for a decade. Incredibly consistent people. And what happens is when you hear about those kind of extreme examples is that you start to feel despondent if you can't maintain that same level of consistency as them. Doesn't mean that you're not that person. Doesn't mean that you're just not consistent. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about me. I used to consider myself a little bit of a quitter. I thought I was not built for consistency. I thought it was easier to go and drink beer instead of even trying, to be perfectly honest. But it was only when I started to kind of learn about habit formation, actually, and what it took to build a new habit into your life, the kind of ultimate consistency, the being so consistent that the behaviour becomes automated. You don't even have to think about it. Your brain just responds to the cue and delivers the behaviour. That I realised that consistency in and of itself is not something to aspire to. That's just too simplistic. It doesn't work like that. Consistency is a byproduct of other behaviours. So rather than seeing consistency as our goal, what we should be doing is building a system that produces consistency. And so if you stick with me, I will talk you through my system, and you can give it a try and let me know how it works out for you. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to make space for consistency. I don't know about you, but when I think of something new that I want to introduce into my world, I've got to find some space for it. It's not like I have loads of free time. Life is pretty full, and I bet yours is as well. So because of the fullness of our lives, if we're going to introduce something new into it, a new behaviour, a new endeavour that we want to achieve, that we want to be consistent towards, we're going to need to shuffle some things around. So first things first, we need to decide when is the time that we're going to dedicate to this. You're going to work on this thing for an hour every morning? Great, that's awesome. What are you usually doing in that hour? Where is that thing going to go? Are we talking about an hour when you would normally be asleep? Getting less sleep just isn't an option, is it? So now we're into a situation where we need to change your evening routine to go to bed an hour earlier so that your amount of sleep can be maintained and you can still get up in the morning and work on whatever it is you're trying to be consistent about for that hour in the morning. So what you've got to understand is that in your efforts to be consistent, you are going to create a cascade of consequences for which you need to have a plan. Because if you don't have a plan, those consequences are going to knock you off your course. They're going to stop you from being consistent. So have a plan for how you're going to carve out the time and maintain that time for whatever it is you're trying to be consistent at. We also need to communicate our intentions to our loved ones, to the people that we share our lives with. There is a couple of reasons why we need to do that. Firstly, for accountability. Saying something out loud, telling people what you want to achieve is incredibly powerful at getting your ass out of the chair and pushing you towards that goal. But more importantly than that, what we need to accept is that no man is an island. I don't know whether you've ever seen the film with Hugh Grant about a boy. His character in that film talks, I think the character is called Will, he talks about being an island. He refers to himself as Ibiza. And by the end of that film, even he has to acknowledge that he's not Ibiza. So no man, no woman, no person is an island. We live with other people. We interact with other people in our daily lives. And if we're going to start to change our behaviour, we have to communicate that change with our loved ones, with the people in our lives. Because if we don't, what will happen is they will not understand what we're trying to do. They won't understand what we're trying to achieve. They won't understand that the fact that we did this thing yesterday means we want to do it again today. And they have their own agenda. They have their own lives. They have their own stuff. And they will carry on doing exactly what they were doing before and expect you to fall in line with that. You will end up harbouring silent resentment towards them. They will have no clue why they're getting this kind of frosty response for you. So talk to the people around you and tell them what you're trying to achieve, and that will go so far to helping you maintain the space that you're trying to carve out to be consistent in. Consistency lives in resilience. So no matter how well you've planned, you're going to overlook something. It's going to be hot one evening, you're not going to be able to sleep, the next day you're going to be tired, that's going to knock you off track. You're going to get some negative feedback on whatever it is you're trying to do. At some point, there is going to be some negativity that comes for it. Maybe you're going to get no feedback, which can be almost as damning. I don't know whether you've ever worked really hard on a social media post and put it out into the world and all you got back was tumbleweed. That can be absolutely soul destroying. It's hard to work on this kind of resilience If we focus too hard on all the things that can go wrong, that's where procrastination lies, particularly if you've got a really kind of vivid imagination. I know for me, if I spend too long worrying about all the things that can go wrong, I stop trying to work on that thing. I get the fear and I retreat into myself, and suddenly I'm not achieving anything. So we don't want to get into procrastination. So rather than focusing on all the things that can go wrong and trying to make a plan for that, what we need to do is focus on our goal. Just as our imaginations can knock us off track, our imaginations can also keep us on the path. Imagine your outcome. What is it that you're trying to achieve with this consistency? What is it that we want to what's the end goal? What's that flag fluttering out on the horizon? What is it that we're trying to get to? By focusing on that, what we can really do is put ourselves in a position where even if we stumble on the path, we're not deflected from the path. We stumble, but we can still see that goal out on the horizon and we can still move towards it. So that's really going to go a long way to helping you build resilience to whatever comes your way. Consistency also needs contingency. So we know the knocks are going to come. We don't want to think too much about them, but we know that they're coming. And because we know those knocks are going to come, because we have that foreknowledge, it means we can have a plan. We can have a plan on how to get back on it, how to cope with those knocks, how we're going to rebuild our momentum when our momentum flounders. So if you've ever struggled with consistency, what I need to say to you is don't focus on the consistency itself as your goal. Trust that it will emerge if you create space for the consistency, if you communicate with the people around you, if you focus on your actual goal, what it is you actually want to achieve through this consistent behaviour, if you have a plan to regain your momentum when your momentum lets you down. If you do all of those things, you are going to create consistency. It is going to emerge from those other behaviours. So remember, create some space, create some focus, and create some momentum and a plan to regain that momentum when you lose it. And consistency will be within your grasp. So first things first, think about the thing that you're looking to achieve and decide when you're going to work on that thing. When is it that you're going to deliver that thing that you want to achieve? In identifying that time, now you can start to think about the consequences of identifying that time and start to carve that space out for yourselves. Go ahead, as ever, I would love to hear how you get on. I would love to know that this training is helpful to you. And if you did find some value here, I would ask you to like liberally, to share widely. If you know someone who could really benefit from this kind of advice in delivering consistency in their own world, share this with them. All that remains for me to say is wish you the very best of productivity, and I will see you here next time. Thanks, everyone.